Welcome to Called to Build, the podcast for faith-driven entrepreneurs and kingdom leaders who are ready to build what outlasts them. Hosted by Carl Willis, entrepreneur, pastor, and marketplace missionary. Each episode delivers biblical wisdom, insight, real-world strategy, and bold encouragement to help you lead with purpose, steward with wisdom, and multiply your impact. Because faith and business weren't meant to compete, they were meant to collide. Now, let's step into today's episode.
Have you ever found yourself in a place so dry, so silent, you question whether God was still with you? That's the wilderness, the desolate place where everything familiar disappears and all you're left with is Him. When I wrote the book Desolate Places a few years ago, I had recently finished walking through one of those seasons myself. It was a time of deep personal and professional transition. Life didn't look the way I had envisioned, and the road ahead felt anything but clear. But it was in those quiet, painful moments that God revealed some of His most powerful truths that I believe every entrepreneur, business leader, and believer needs to hear when they find themselves in a dry and weary land. So if you're in a difficult season right now, if business is slower than you expected, if the bills are piling up, or if your dreams feel more like burdens, then today's episode is for you, because there is purpose in the desert. The desert doesn't kill your purpose, it actually reveals it. So let's start with this foundational premise. Your wilderness is actually a setup. It's not a setback. One of the greatest lies that the enemy whispers in our wilderness seasons is this: God has left you. But that's not true. Over and over in Scripture, God leads His people into the wilderness, not to abandon them, but to refine them. Moses met God in a burning bush in the wilderness. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tested and prepared. The desolate place is actually the place where the most sacred encounters often happen. In business, this might look like a downturn in revenue, a failed launch, or the unexpected loss of a major client. I've walked through those seasons myself, but I've also seen how God uses those very moments to prune what needs to go and deepen our dependence upon Him. Let me tell you this, from my own experience, your desolate place might be the very soil where your next breakthrough is planted. The second piece that I want you to grab hold of is this: the hidden provision that awaits obedience. You see, when the children of Israel wandered in the desert, God didn't give them a month's supply of manna. He gave them just enough for each day. And for those of you who are planners, that's tough, isn't it? In my own journey, I've seen this truth play out again and again. During a difficult season in our marketing firm, I remember crying out to God about payroll. We had a shortfall and nothing in the pipeline looked promising. That week, out of nowhere, a former client reached out with a project that covered the gap exactly. No more and no less. We often want to see what the whole path is going to look like, but God invites us to trust Him one step at a time. His provision meets us in motion, not in pause. Oftentimes in these desolate places, what's happening is you're being stripped so you can soar. And you need to understand why losing comfort brings clarity. Sometimes the wilderness removes things we thought we couldn't live without, only to show us that they were distractions all along. In Desolate Places, I shared how God used a career and financial setback to strip away my false identities. I had to face the uncomfortable truth that I was chasing security more than purpose. And for the entrepreneur, the desolate place forces you to ask the hard questions. Why did I start this business to begin with? Who am I really serving? And what legacy am I actually building? If the work you're doing isn't aligned with your mission, The wilderness will make that painfully clear, but that's not a curse. It's actually a gift in disguise. In these desolate places, you're going to find a lot of quiet, and it's in the quiet that God rebuilds your foundation. We live in a world today that celebrates hustle and noise, but growth often comes in the quiet. It was in the silence of my desolate place that I heard God most clearly. Without the noise of performance and public opinion, I rediscovered my purpose. I remembered that I'm not just a marketer or a pastor. I'm a man called to live a Christ-centered life and mentor others into theirs. In business, the quiet seasons can feel like a failure, but they're often where God reshapes your vision, retools your strategy, and revives your passion. So don't despise the quiet. Take time to lean into it. Ultimately, you're going to find your wilderness is someone else's lifeline. One of the reasons I wrote Desolate Places was because I knew I wasn't the only one walking through the wilderness. What I didn't know at the time was just how many people would reach out later saying things like, "This is exactly what I needed to hear," or "I thought I was alone." Your struggle is not in vain. In fact, the strength God develops in you here will become a lifeline for someone else down the road. And what I found, it's not just for one someone else, it will probably be for many. That client who's struggling, that friend who's just lost everything, that employee looking for meaning in more than a paycheck, they need to see how you held on to faith when everything screamed fear. Don't forget, Jesus often withdrew to desolate places to pray. We see that in Luke 5:16. You also find that the desolate place is the place where many miraculous provisions took place. The feeding of the 4,000, the feeding of the 5,000. So if the Son of God needed the wilderness to connect deeply with the Father, what would make you think you're exempt? So right now, if you find yourself walking through a desolate place in business, take heart. You're not alone. God is with you, and this season, even the one you're in the middle of, can become the most fruitful part of your journey. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and say, "That was where I found my real strength." So let me leave you with this thought. Don't just endure your wilderness, embrace it, engage it. Let God transform you through it, because your desolate place might just be the birthplace of your greatest testimony. Thanks for tuning in today, and I look forward to talking with you again on our next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to Called to Build. If this episode challenged or encouraged you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another faith-driven leader who's ready to rise. To go deeper, visit carlwillis.com for tools, training, and resources that will help you lead with purpose, steward with wisdom, and build what outlasts you. Remember, you weren't called to compete, you were called to build. Until next time, keep building what matters.